Very good question. I think that there's lots of sources of information available for people willing to take the time to search. One of the big differences between the 80s and now is the internet. And so being able to find out what the company says to its investors versus what it says in its press releases, trying to find out what the experience has been at other uranium sites. All that material is much more readily available than it used to be. I think that people from the areas in Virginia where there's uranium occurrences may be facing a risk of uranium in water. And so looking at community water supplies in those Piedmont areas, I think would be very wise and would be a way to ensure that communities are drinking safe water. You don't have to be near a uranium deposit to be exposed to uranium because it's naturally occurring and in all rock, just at different concentrations. Virginia Uranium is marketing itself as providing fuel for America, even though they're a Canadian-based company. And if Virginia wanted to have energy, it would do well to develop solar farms or wind farms where they could be generating energy that's compatible with other land use and would be able to generate that energy on a sustained basis at lower cost than nuclear power. And so the energy need, there's good opportunities for generating energy without significant environmental impact. If there's people who like the lifestyle in their communities now, trying to ensure that community development does not include extractive resource development, mines, mills, pits, and piles. Those are the legacy of uranium mining, the waste piles. And that's what people in Southside Virginia would be living near, because those wastes are not going to be buried underground, because when they come out of the ground, they're going to be made of material that's blasted and fractured and takes up too much space to pack back into the original hole. So the footprint of mining is bigger than the pit. It includes the waste rock piles, which may be 4 or 5 times as much material as in the ore at an open pit mine. And at the mill, there's going to be maybe 500 to 1,000 times as much waste as there is uranium in the ore, because the uranium's only 0.1 or 0.2% of the uranium. 0.1% is a penny out of $10. And so you get the penny of uranium, and the $9.99 is the amount of waste relative to the value produced. That waste will include all the radioactive materials other than uranium that were in the ore. Uranium decays into something called thorium. Thorium decays into radium. Radium decays into radon. And all those radionuclides are going to be in the tailings, the waste from the mill. Only the uranium will be removed. And that material will be a permanent source of risk in the waste piles. Whether those waste piles are well enough designed to withstand hurricanes, other potential sources of release, or not erode over time and release, that's the risk that those materials present. Virginia would need to manage those waste sites or ensure they're managed by the federal government, which might acquire them without release in perpetuity, because the hazards are going to be undiminished for thousands of years. Well, I think it's important for people to have their opinions heard and trying to identify the audience of decision makers and trying to communicate with the public. I think that those are the ways in which citizens get involved in decisions that affect their lives. So that kind of public involvement by discourse, communicating with the media, communicating with elected officials, I think those are all positive efforts that could result from the symposium. The only reason Virginia is talking about uranium is because someone has a deposit on their farm that they're trying to make money out of. There's no uranium discussion unless the Coles family and their companies are talking about it. And so the Virginia uranium interest died down when the company that they'd first formed, Marline, expired, and I think it'll die down when the Coleses realize that there's not going to be enough demand to drive investment in their deposit. And since Virginia needs energy, being able to use the landscape for generating renewable power from solar or wind, I think that those are more authentic and lasting ways to generate energy at lower cost than mining and reactor cycle